A lot of people struggle with this concept of understanding African spirituality. When they think of African spirituality, they think of voodoo, dark magic, witchcraft. All of these dark images comes to their mind. And then there's also this concept that African spirituality is not like organized religion. There's no rules. There's no you need to do that, you can't do this. So they struggle then to understand what is African spirituality. So in this video, I want us to unpack what is African spirituality, and then I want us to also unpack what is Ubuntu and where these two concepts actually meet. Let's talk about it. Hello beautiful people and welcome to my channel. My name is Monica for those who are new, and if you are a returning Sabi, welcome back. I welcome you all to the other side, a safe space we have created here for individuals who are navigating, leaving a high control religion, navigating their spirituality, looking for insights, looking for stories. All of that can be found right here on the other side. I am your host, Monica. So let's talk about African spirituality and Ubuntu in this video. Before I unpack Ubuntu and African spirituality, in the comment section, let me know what do you think about Ubuntu and the concept of African spirituality. You know, be it negative or positive, we are always open to conversation on this platform as long as it's done respectfully. But let me know what you think about Ubuntu and African spirituality, and let's get into the video. Now firstly, let's just demystify a few myths or a few lies about African spirituality. Firstly, voodoo is not what you think it is. Let's start right there. Voodoo is not dark magic. Voodoo is not witchcraft, you know, all of those scary images that might come up. That's not voodoo. That has actually been done intentionally to deter people from learning about African spirituality and to have people see it as dark, spiritism, and just all of these negative words so the people can be deterred from their way of life. Voodoo or voodoo, however you want to pronounce it, there's so many different ways to pronounce it, but that is just a way of life and another form of African spirituality. African spirituality is very much similar to Ubuntu, and if you actually want to understand it, you need to understand Ubuntu. So let's just first unpack Ubuntu and then we'll get back to African spirituality. Ubuntu is very difficult to explain to someone who's not African. I feel like if you're African, you immediately understand the concept of Ubuntu. It's just ingrained in us. It's a way of life. It's how we were raised. It's how we will raise our children. It's how our grandparents grew up. Like, Ubuntu has just been part of our lives. Ubuntu is an Nguni word. Nguni is a group of languages here in South Africa. Now, in a previous video, I taught my community that South Africa is very much multilingual. It's a very multilingual country. We have 12 official languages when you include signed language, and our languages can be put into groups. So Nguni is a group of languages, and the word Ubuntu comes from that group of languages. And basically, Ubuntu means I am because you are. It is a philosophical teaching about life that we are all connected. We are all one. When I see you, I see myself. When I see myself, I see you. When I see your children, I see my children. When I see your parents, I see my parents. When you see my parents, it's your parents. When you see my children, they are your children. When I see your grandparents, I see my grandparents, and vice versa. We can keep going on and on and on. But we are all connected. And if you've lived in Africa, it's kind of easier to understand Ubuntu when you see our way of life. For example, I live close by to a school right now, and if I see one of those kids being naughty in the street, or you know what, swearing, because the other day that actually happened, these kids were swearing in the street, and I was like, hey, who's swearing? Mind you, I don't know these kids, but I was like, hey, who's swearing? Stop that. Because when I see those children, I also see my children. I see them as part of my family. And if it was my niece or nephew or my own child, I would not keep quiet if they were being naughty. So I reprimanded them. And it's so normal here in Africa to see other people's children as your children. That's why we are able to look and care after other people, even if they're not our family. We just love and care for each other. Desmond Tutu even spoke on Ubuntu, saying that it's the essence of being human. You can't exist as a human in isolation. And Ubuntu basically speaks to that. Ubuntu says that we are part of a community. We all need each other. We all need each other to heal. We all need each other to thrive. We all need each other to exist. I am because you are. And we belong together. My joy is your joy. Your pain is my pain. In a world where we are really reminded to be individualistic and just, be individuals, Ubuntu is saying that we are a community. We all need each other. And Ubuntu can be seen also in the African lens, in terms of how we live, in terms of how we love sharing. Hence we were so easily colonized. And we love living in multi-generational homes where you'll see aunts, uncles, grandparents, and siblings living close to each other. I know there's still some places where people still live like this, and that's just another form of Ubuntu, that we are a community. We are all interconnected. And once you understand that and you get a grasp of, okay, this is Ubuntu and what it actually means, it kind of makes understanding African spirituality easier. So if you understand Ubuntu, understanding African spirituality is going to be a lot easier. African spirituality is not a religion. African spirituality is a way of life. And similarly to Ubuntu that says we are all one, we are all interconnected, I am because you are, African spirituality says I am because people came before me and people are to come after me. When you see me, you see a reflection of my ancestors, the people who came before me, and you see the people who are to come after me. This reminds me of Kamala Harris. She had like a little clip that went viral about we are all living in the context of something like that. But yes, African spirituality is something along those lines, that we are because our ancestors existed, and we will be because other people are to come after us. And we live in harmony with nature. We understand that the earth is sacred, and we see Earth as a mother, and we respect her, and we see the planets, the sun, the stars, all of these planets as beings or creatures of God that are all interconnected. And that's why African spirituality has so many I can't think of the word right now, but so many different aspects of it. You have voodoo or voodoo, whatever you want to call it. You have astrology, you have Kemetic teachings. There's so many forms of African spirituality, and whatever resonates with you, and that's what you practice. But African spirituality is living in harmony with nature, with God's creations, and understanding that when you see someone, you are seeing a manifestation of an individual who has lived thousands and thousands and thousands of lifetimes. There are people who came before this person, and when you see them, you see those people too. And this is also reflected in our languaging as Africans. For example, in my language, I'm a Tswana person, or I'm from the Tswana kingdom. When we greet, we say dumelang. And dumelang, when directly translated into English, means agree. However, it's asking a group of people, do you agree? And that's our languaging. That's the secret of African spirituality. It's in our language, and you can hear it where when we acknowledge each other, we don't just acknowledge an individual, but we acknowledge the people, the collective, everyone who came before you and you yourself. Again, lending to Ubuntu, that I am because you are. We are all interconnected. And African spirituality is saying even in the spiritual world, we are all connected. We are connected to the spiritual world and the physical world. And the people who came before you, and the people who are here right now, and the ones who are to come. We are all connected. African spirituality really emphasizes that the world is not just as it is, but there's two worlds we live in, the spiritual one and the physical one. And these worlds are always communicating, always interconnected. And African spirituality also teaches us that actually before things manifest in the spiritual, in the physical, not spiritual, they already started in the spiritual. So before something happens to you physically here on earth, it already happened in the spiritual world. So that's why spiritual hygiene and just being connected with your spirituality is so important, because it's going to manifest in the physical world. So African spirituality also very much emphasizes that our ancestors are all around us. They walk with us anywhere you go. Your ancestors are with you, and our dreams are very important when it comes to African spirituality, because our dreams are not just dreams. We're not just sleeping and seeing images, but it's also a way for our ancestors to communicate with us in the spiritual realm. So when you are sleeping, you're dreaming, that's where your ancestors are communicating with you. This is African spirituality. So dreams and African spirituality are very important, and it's so good to just have a dream diary. I would really encourage this to anyone, that have a dream diary and really capture your dreams every day. Even if you don't remember much, whatever you can remember, just write it down and capture it. You will truly be surprised as to how the spiritual or astral, I hope I'm saying this word right, the astral realm really influences our lives. And sometimes these dreams are not just dreams or thoughts, but they're actually warning you about something, or they're telling you about something that's going to happen in your life, or something that happened in your past. Because dreams are not just about what's going on currently or in the past, or just thoughts. Sometimes your dreams can actually let you know about the future as well. So African spirituality acknowledges that our dreams and communicating with the ancestors is very important. So once again, there is no separation between the spiritual world and the physical world. Even when you are cooking, when you are speaking, when you're making love, all of these things, they are taking place in the spiritual world as well. So the spiritual world and the physical world, they're interconnected, interlinked. If you're on TikTok, you know this interlinked thing. But yes, they're all connected. So it's very much important to have good spiritual hygiene, a good spiritual life, because it affects or reflects in your physical world as well. So then, where does Ubuntu and African spirituality meet? I think after just explaining African spirituality and Ubuntu, it's becoming clearer for anyone to understand that these two concepts are definitely not separate, but these two concepts really do merge and lend to each other. Because Ubuntu says, we cannot heal alone. We need community. And African spirituality says you are never alone. You have your ancestors. You have God. You have all of these people around you. You are never alone. Ubuntu says community, and African spirituality also says community. Your community is what? Your ancestors, the people who came before you and the people who are going to come after you. That is your community. So Ubuntu, you are not alone. You are, because I am, we are part of a community. And African spirituality says, yes, honor your community, recognize your community. Not your community is your God, your ancestors are your God. No, they are your guides. They are the people on the other side who are more connected to God, because they are in the spiritual realm. So their connection to God is completely different to your connection to God right here on earth. But it is your community, and you also do need them. So we're really getting to see here just how braided together Ubuntu and African spirituality is, because Ubuntu basically gives African spirituality its ethical roots, saying that you have power but not to dominate. And then you go to an African healer who practices African spirituality, and when they heal, they're not dominating, they're not doing bad things, dark magic like people love to portray online or whatever, but rather when they are healing that individual, they're also healing the community. And that right there is Ubuntu, that I am because you are. We are all part of a community. Ubuntu says, I see you, I hear you, I hold space for you. When African spirituality says, I am guided by those who came before me, so I can walk gently with you now. So in conclusion, it's clear to see that African spirituality and Ubuntu are definitely interconnected or linked. In a world where we are taught to compete, to be individualistic, to isolate and survive on our own, Ubuntu and African spirituality is a reminder that we actually need community, and we are whole because of the other people around us. We are whole because of the people who came before us. We are whole because of the people who are to come after us. We are reminded constantly by Ubuntu and African spirituality that we are a collective. Our pursuit for freedom is not an individualistic thing, but rather a collective thing, that we are a collective, and when we heal ourselves, we are healing our whole community, not just us, the individual. And healing is not a physical thing, but rather it's a spiritual thing. Once you heal yourself on the spiritual level, it starts to reflect on the physical level. And it's very important to be very spiritual, to practice good spiritual hygiene, and to just have a spiritual connection, however it manifests in your life. There's no rules, as I've mentioned. We need to remember at the end of the day that the wisdom of our roots is the power of our people. But yeah, that is African spirituality, that is Ubuntu and where they meet. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section right there, what do you think about Ubuntu? What do you think about African spirituality? And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.